The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm inside me. Alistair, a 44-year-old IT specialist from Seattle, stared out the window of our Queen Anne home, the city lights blurring into a hazy mess. Just hours ago, this view was comforting, a symbol of the life I had built with Bronwyn. Now it felt like a mocking reminder of what I had lost. It started subtly, as it always does, I suppose. Bronwyn, my wife of 15 years, a vibrant and successful lawyer, started working late more often. "Important case," she'd say, kissing me quickly before rushing out the door. I didn't suspect anything at first. Bronwyn was ambitious, driven, and I admired that about her. I trusted her implicitly. We had weathered so much together: the loss of her father, my struggles with anxiety, the everyday challenges of life. Our bond felt unbreakable. But then came the little things that chipped away at my peace of mind. Bronwyn's phone became a sacred object, always face down, always password protected. She'd flinch if I even glanced at it. Her laughter, once so warm and genuine, now seemed strained, often followed by a quick, nervous glance at me. She started dressing differently, buying new clothes, experimenting with makeup. It was as if she was trying to impress someone, but not me. One evening, I decided to surprise her at her office. I brought her favorite coffee and a small bouquet of lilies, her favorite flower. The receptionist, a young woman named Meredith, looked surprised to see me. "Bronwyn's not here, Alistair," she said, her eyes darting nervously. "She had a meeting out of the office." "Oh," I said, trying to hide my disappointment. "Do you know when she'll be back?" Meredith hesitated. "I'm not sure," she mumbled, avoiding my gaze. "Maybe you should call her." I thanked her and left, the lilies feeling heavy in my hand. I called Bronwyn, but she didn't answer. I sent her a text. "Just wanted to say hi. Hope your meeting is going well." An hour later she replied, "Long meeting, will be home late. Love you." But something felt off. The lilies wilted in my hand as I drove home. That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, my mind racing. I tried to dismiss my suspicions as paranoia, but the seed of doubt had been planted and it was growing rapidly. The next day I found myself inexplicably drawn to Bronwyn's phone. I knew it was wrong, a violation of her privacy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. When she was in the shower, I grabbed her phone and frantically tried different passwords. Finally, on the third try, I guessed at our anniversary date. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrolled through her messages. There were dozens of texts from an unknown number. My hands trembled as I opened one. It was a picture-a selfie of Bronwyn, smiling brightly, with a man I didn't recognize. The caption read, "Having the best time, wish you were here." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The air left my lungs and I stumbled backward, collapsing onto the bed. I scrolled through more messages, each one a dagger twisting in my heart. They were filled with flirtatious banter, inside jokes, and blatant declarations of love. The man's name was Gideon. My world shattered. The woman I had loved and trusted for so many years had been lying to me, betraying me right under my nose. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, followed by a burning rage. How could she do this to me? How could she throw away everything we had built together? When Bronwyn came out of the shower, I confronted her. I held up her phone, my hands shaking. "Who is Gideon?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She paled, her eyes widening in panic. "I can explain," she stammered. "Explain what?" "Explain how you've been having an affair behind my back. Explain how you've been lying to me for months." I roared, my voice echoing through the house. She started to cry, tears streaming down her face. "It's not what you think," she sobbed. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Not what I think," I repeated, incredulous. "I have the messages right here. I have the pictures. What else is there to think?" She tried to touch me, but I recoiled. "Don't," I said, my voice cold. "Don't touch me. I don't even know who you are anymore." She begged me to forgive her, to give her another chance. She said it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, but I couldn't. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. The image of her smiling in that picture with Gideon was seared into my brain, a constant reminder of her betrayal. I told her to leave. I couldn't bear to look at her any longer. She packed a bag and walked out the door, her sobs echoing in the empty house. I watched her go, a hollow ache in my chest. 15 years gone in an instant. In the days that followed, I was consumed by grief and anger. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't focus on anything. I was a shell of my former self. I called my best friend Bram and told him everything. He was shocked and supportive, offering a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on. He urged me to seek therapy, to process my emotions and start to heal. I took his advice and found a therapist, a kind woman named Isolde, who helped me navigate the turbulent waters of my emotions. She taught me coping mechanisms, helped me identify my triggers, and encouraged me to focus on self-care. As I started to heal, I realized that I couldn't let Bronwyn's betrayal define me. I had to move on to rebuild my life to find happiness again. It wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to do it. I started exercising, eating healthy, and spending time with friends and family. I rediscovered my love for hiking and started exploring the beautiful trails around Seattle. One day, I decided to confront Gideon. I tracked him down through social media. He was a real estate agent living in a fancy condo downtown. I drove to his office and waited for him outside. When he emerged, I approached him, my heart pounding in my chest. "Gideon?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me, confused. "Yes, I'm Alistair, Bronwyn's husband," I said, my voice growing stronger. His face paled. "Oh," he said, his eyes darting nervously. "I didn't know she was married," I scoffed. "Don't give me that. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew you were sleeping with a married woman and you didn't care," he stammered, trying to defend himself, but I cut him off. "I just wanted you to know that you destroyed my marriage, you hurt my wife, and you caused a lot of pain. I hope you're happy with yourself." I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, speechless. I didn't feel any satisfaction, just a sense of closure. I had said what I needed to say, and now I could finally move on. The divorce was finalized a few months later. Bronwyn didn't contest it. She seemed genuinely remorseful, but it was too late. The damage was done. I sold our house in Queen Anne and moved to a small apartment in Ballard, a vibrant neighborhood with a thriving art scene. I started taking pottery classes, something I had always wanted to do. I met new people, made new friends, and started to feel like myself again. One evening, I was at a local art gallery, admiring the work of a talented young painter named Willow. We struck up a conversation, and I was immediately drawn to her warmth and intelligence. We talked for hours about art, music, and life. As I walked her home that night, I felt a spark, a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could find love again. But then a twist. A mutual friend, Nesta, who knew both Bronwyn and me, contacted me after months of silence. She said she had something important to tell me, something she should have told me long ago. We met at a coffee shop near my apartment. Nesta looked nervous, her hands trembling as she sipped her latte. "Alistair," she began, her voice hesitant. "I need to tell you something about Bronwyn and Gideon. It's not what you think." I raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "What do you mean? Gideon, he wasn't just some random guy Bronwyn met. He was her boss, and she was being blackmailed." I stared at her, stunned. "Blackmailed? What are you talking about?" Nesta explained that Bronwyn had made a mistake on a case a few years ago, a mistake that could have cost her her career. Gideon had found out about it and threatened to expose her if she didn't comply with his demands. He forced her to have an affair with him, Nesta said, her voice breaking. She was terrified. She didn't know what else to do. I was speechless. Everything I thought I knew about Bronwyn's betrayal was suddenly turned upside down. She hadn't been cheating on me out of lust or boredom. She had been forced into it, a victim of blackmail. But why didn't she tell me? Why did she let me believe the worst? Nesta explained that Gideon had threatened to harm me if she told anyone, including me. She was afraid for my safety, and she thought it was better to let me hate her than to put me in danger. I was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions: shock, anger, confusion, and a strange sense of relief. Bronwyn hadn't betrayed me willingly. She had been a victim just like me. I decided to confront Bronwyn one last time. I found her at a small coffee shop near her office. She looked tired and drawn, her eyes filled with sadness. "Bronwyn," I said, my voice soft, "I know about Gideon. I know about the blackmail." Her eyes widened in disbelief. How did you find out?" I told her about Nesta's confession. She started to cry, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Alistair," she sobbed. "I wanted to tell you, but I was so afraid. I didn't want to put you in danger." I sat down next to her and took her hand. "It's okay," I said. "I understand. I forgive you." We talked for hours, finally clearing the air, finally understanding each other. I realized that I still loved her, despite everything that had happened. But I also knew that we couldn't go back to the way things were. The trust was still broken and the scars of betrayal were too deep. We decided to remain friends, to support each other as we moved on with our lives. I started dating Willow, and Bronwyn eventually left her law firm and started her own practice, focusing on helping victims of blackmail and abuse. Gideon, however, didn't get away with his actions. Bronwyn eventually gathered the courage to report him to the authorities. He was arrested and charged with blackmail and abuse of power. He lost his job, his reputation, and his freedom. In the end, justice was served, and we both found a way to heal and move on. The rain outside had stopped, and the sun was beginning to peek through the clouds. As I looked out the window, I felt a sense of peace, a sense of hope for the future. The storm had passed, and a new day was dawning. This wasn't the ending I had envisioned for my marriage, but it was an ending nonetheless. And sometimes, endings are necessary for new beginnings. Summary. Alistair, an IT specialist in Seattle, faces the devastating reality of his wife Bronwyn's affair. He discovers the betrayal through secretive phone messages and a picture with another man named Gideon. After confronting Bronwyn, he navigates through heartbreak and anger, eventually seeking therapy and rebuilding his life. A shocking twist reveals that Bronwyn was blackmailed into the affair by her boss, Gideon, turning her into a victim. Alistair confronts both Bronwyn and Gideon, leading to a final confrontation and Gideon's arrest. Alistair and Bronwyn decide to part ways but remain friends. Alistair finds new hope and love with Willow, while Bronwyn starts a new chapter in her life, focusing on helping others. The story ends with Alistair finding peace and moving forward, proving that even after the darkest storms, new beginnings are possible. Thank you for listening to Alistair's story. Remember, even in the face of betrayal, healing and new beginnings are always within reach.